Hi.
Hi yourself. Hey, thank you for the subscription. I knew you. I knew either you or Tobias would be my first. You guys are too nice. I see you've discovered all of the sound alerts. I hope you're having fun with those. Um, Welcome to the affiliate gang. Hell yeah, Riku, good to see you. Oh, first, my first paycheck isn't until Friday. Understandable. I just you know how you are. I would have pegged you to subscribe like as soon as physically possible, like even when I was offline. Got you to affiliate too, my man. Thank you very much. It's Doogly. Holy shit, Doogly! Thank you for the subscription. We're off to the races. We got two, and I've been streaming for 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Um, yeah. So the sound alerts. I want to generally have sound alerts turned off for reading streams, which is what we're going to be doing today. But seeing as it's the first time you guys are going to be able to use them, I figured, hey, I'll let you guys play around with them a little bit before we get started. So, yeah, fucking boop and doot to your heart's content. I know there's not very many. I'm planning on adding more as I find them, I guess. Um, the more robust ones, shall we call them, are going to cost bits rather than channel points. Uh, and by robust, I mean if you scroll down on your homepage. Actually, I don't. If you're watching on mobile, I'm not sure how to do it. I think you can, but I never have, so I don't know how. You can see the sound alerts extension, which will allow you to uh, basically buy my attention for up to a couple of seconds with bits by playing, for example, Five Nights at Freddy's Jump Scare. And I specifically, I looked up FNAF sounds because FNAF has very like distinct sound design, and also I wanted a jump scare sound alert. I'm scrolling through and I'm finding like a bunch of the regular ones. The one that I picked is like 3 times louder than every other one on the site. So it'll be a legitimate jump scare. So if you're so inclined, that one's my recommendation. The rest of them should be named pretty self-explanatory. Um, Also, the Lethal Company Ghost Girl. That one will fuck me up. So I may be blind because I don't see it. It should be. Let me double check. It should be activated. Try and get to my channel here. Yeah, you got the clown horn. The clown horn gets to be channel points. I might make that less actually. I might make it like 10 or 50 channel points instead of 100. Cause that one's funny. Would be better if it like played it a bunch of times. I can see it on my screen. I'm on desktop. I don't know. I don't know how to check it on mobile. I don't know if you can see it down there. Like literally just scroll down and then it should be. I got 2 panels. One's for donations. It's kind of outdated, so I don't know if it were. It's through Streamlabs. That I had that's for since the first time I started streaming nearly 10 years ago. Um, and then yeah, on the left should have the sound alerts. But yeah, that's. I mean, obviously no pressure. It's all bits, which is real money. So no sweat if you. I mean, it's for you guys to play with. Like that's the idea. It's for you guys to dunk on me on. Hype train, hype train. Oh my god, it's a hype train. What the fuck? How did I didn't know that could happen? What the fuck? What the fuck? Y'all are crazy. We just got here. Oh man, that's so fucking cool. It's so fucking cool. I don't even know what a hype train even does. I think I know, like, I mean, I know it's just a marketing thing, right? Let's be honest. People see hype train, they're like, oh, I wanna do that. Which, like, yeah, it's cool. I've done it. That's very cool. Thank you guys for the hype train. That's fucking awesome. That's so cool. I never thought I never thought I'd see it myself. As weird as that is to say. Heck yeah. 63% hype train. 2 whole subs. Look at that gold bar. You guys are very nice to me. Alright, another thing I have access to is ads, but I've specifically left them off for the stream because we're going to be doing reading. And that's going to be at the lurk for now, but enjoy the sub failure. I sure will. Thank you very much, sir. Enjoy your lurk. I hope you enjoy the cozy reading time. Yeah, like pre-roll ads, mid-roll ads, I turn them off, and I want to keep them off for Mythos Monday streams. At least when we're, like, reading visual novels and stuff. In the future, we might read actual books, anything that's, like, in the public domain. I've got a copy of Bullfinch's Mythology, I've got a copy of Dracula, stuff that interests me, and I think that might interest you, a couple of classics. So eventually, we might do some of that. Ads are generally going to be turned off, and sound alerts are generally going to be turned off if we're reading verbatim. But something with, like, Bullfinch's Mythology, for example, if we're kind of having a discussion, I might leave them on. I don't know. It's all new to me, so we'll play it by ear. What else? I don't know what else. As far as, like, emotes and stuff, other subscription stuff, brand new to me. I don't have anything specific planned. I do know what I want my first emote to be, but I definitely am not going to try and draw it myself. So we're gonna maybe get some art commissioned whenever I'm able to do that. Yeah, I wanted to put some time in, as much time as I could, to set stuff up for you guys. I hope the sound alerts are satisfactory, at least for now. Like I said, there will be more. I didn't get everything done today that I wanted to do today. I did end up spending a little bit of time in between work over the weekend setting some stuff up. But yeah, it's all uphill from here. Nowhere to go but up. That said, today in particular was a little stressful for me. I had a few weird, stupid things happen. So, I'm looking forward to some comfy time playing Witch on the Holy Night. Reading the next chapter in this exciting tale. So what say you get back to it? Alright, I'm gonna have to change my window capture again. There we go. The cat furry is indeed streaming today. Too bad I don't know who that is. Oh, I said I was gonna turn off all the fucking sound alerts, and then I straight up didn't. Hold on. I can disable those here. Oh no! You got one last honkin'! That was really good. That was really funny. You got it as I was turning it off, bro. That was funny. Alright, I gave you about 15 minutes to play with the sounds. It's time. Shut up! It's time to stop! If I just disable the... if I just hide the source, it should be good. Okay, so if you do have... I'm assuming you saw the Fate Stay Night World War release. Yes, I did. I'm so fucking excited. Because once we're finished with Witch on the Holy Night, it's just a waiting game until Tsukihime comes out. Oh yeah, her name will probably be... it'll be Altria. Because that's how we've decided to localize the King of Knights. The guy who goes by Arthur. Artorius. We're gonna call her Altria. It's fucking... like, come on, man. Put me on every localization team as, like, the final grammatical checker guy, and I'll be like, alright, listen, this is how we're gonna do it. Trust me, we know these weebs. They're gonna need it this way. But yeah, once we're done with Witch on the Holy Night, Tsukihime, we'll probably have, like I said, like some other miscellaneous reading type stuff until the Tsukihime remake comes out. And then once we're done with that, I am full sending Fate Stay Night. That's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. But until then, Artoria, why the hell do they make it? It's not even Altoria, it's Altria. They removed all the vowels. Also, hey, what's up, Gilgamesh? It's good to see you. I assume you heard the news as well. I'm very, very excited. Yup. Alright. Let's say I stop stalling for a little while, and we go ahead and get into it. Are you for real? I didn't know this was Persona 5. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, wait a minute, my shit. My alerts aren't set up to handle it, like, they're gonna go off one by one. What's happening? Gilgamesh, thank you so much, bro, holy shit. And I knew you were a fucking high roller, but damn, dog. What the fuck, bro? So no, wait, no, don't joke about that shit. Don't fucking joke about that. I'll explode. I'll combust. What? I mean, I'm literally. This is literally my first time, bro. You can't scare me like that. Fucking why not? Bro, you're crazy. Five gift subs and my fucking heart rate massive. What the shit? Oh, thank you so much, bro. I don't know how to... That was 5. How does Cinder handle what we give her? Bro. Brother, you can't do this to me. I'm gonna freak out. Oh no, dude, I'm lightheaded. I'm too small for this, man. You can't do this to me. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy shit, bro, I guess I gotta like set up multi-sub gift sub alerts, man. You're too good for this world, Gilgamesh. Man, King of Heroes really busting out the gates of Babylon on day fucking 1 out here. Bro, I don't know how to thank you, man. That's a lot. I mean, are you sure? I mean, can I don't know what to say. Thank you. I mean, thank you. Thank you. That is I'm only I'm glad that you are as generous with everyone as I have seen you be with others. That is honestly, you should be proud of that. More? No, not more. Not. I can't, brother. Yeah, I can't. I can't. Always happy to help. My guy's a superhero. They're gonna keep going. They're going off one by one, dude. That's so obnoxious. That's so fucking funny. Man. You got me all misty-eyed over here. I was just thinking to myself before stream, man, maybe it's time to invest in like a... Don't, stop! Shut the fuck up! Stop, hold it! You don't fucking say shit like that. That's a lot of money. You got me. I was about to say... I'm about to say some shit, and now I'm not gonna say it because I'm worried you're actually gonna fucking go for it. For now, he says, motherfucker. Ugh. These fucking archer class heroes out here, you fucking fired pot shots like they got a million arrows. Oh, I'm getting multilingual subs in here. Oh man. Well, Pyro Pups sure do know how to smash gold bars, I guess. I gotta step up my game. Seriously, Gilgamesh, this is one hell of a welcome into the fucking affiliate club, man. Thank you so much. We always will, hell yeah. Arc of Tours, welcome. Thank you for spreading the gratitude. Congratulations on the sub. I don't have much to offer, but that will change. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm gonna try and take a deep breath and get to the cozy part of this reading stream after you've spiked my heart rate and blood pressure. In a good way. I look forward to it. Aw. I'll fund that change if I have to. Man's bruh. Bro's talking like he's gonna do it single-handedly. That is not a challenge. I know you could. Please, relax. Oh man. Oh, that is some. I'm too in shock to express my gratitude properly. I don't know. I can't say thank you enough, dude. That's a lot for me just starting out here. I did nothing of the sort. I've done nothing of the. I can't. I'm not. It's fine. Don't. I'm not. It's okay. Forget I said anything. I'll read for you. Let's get the meat and potatoes here. Fucking lightheaded. Chapter 8. Are you for real? Appropriate title. Misaki High School's winter vacation began in mid-December. The tranquil air of the school was a refreshing change of pace from the more competitive schools and their nationally famous sports teams and exam-oriented curriculum. The empty, newly constructed building evoked images of a pure white swan descending upon a still winter lake. The modern school building felt alive in its stillness, in spite of the absence of its lifeblood of students. Most students never knew what this building used to look like. It was just a small, run-down wooden building, a shadow of its former self. The former school was never torn down and now stood in lonely silence. It was tucked away deep in a seemingly infinite wood that stretched across the mountains. The sound of brooms sweeping dead leaves resonated in the air. The ocean of leaves had accumulated into piles as big as sand dunes. Sweeping was a futile venture at this point. An ominous feeling lingered in the air, perhaps the result of 2 years of abandonment. Cleaning the inside of the building alone would take more than a few days to finish. Not to mention... this sucks. For students, damn it, not machines. We barely get any winter break, and then the student council has us out here doing this crap. The misguided youth sent here for the job wasted no time making it clear he wanted no part in the beautification efforts. At least let us wear a jacket or something, it's freezing out here. Is this part of gym class or something? Winter marathon training? And I'm saying this as someone who never skips gym class. Hosuke Kinomi continued to mumble and grumble to himself as he reluctantly swept away at the ground. Meanwhile, Sojiro silently and swiftly continued his sweeping, glaring at Kinomi out the corner of his eye. Are you seriously trying to clean up all this for real? There's only like 40 of us out here. There's no way we're gonna get all this cleaned up, so who cares? Anything can be completed with diligence, Kinomi. Stop complaining so hard. Kinomi went back to idly swinging his broom without even glancing over at Sojiro. Mornings on the mountain were cold. There was no hint of sun in the cloudy sky above. Ash-gray light illuminated the rear courtyard. The sharp cold of midwinter pierced through everyone's gloves as if they did not exist. A day like this was best spent indoors under warm blankets, but for some reason, they were out here cleaning. The Special Winter Cleaning Team. That was the name given to this elite force sent to clean up this dilapidated, overgrown mountain. The other students had put their faith into this team to fulfill this beautification mission, respecting them for their sacrifice. The reality, however, was that this was nothing more than a ragtag, dare-losing gang of students needing remedial lessons before their exams. They were the victims of a year-long, arm-twisting scheme by the student council. Who in their right mind would come out here to sweep up leaves with a blizzard looming on the horizon? Other than one of the 40 assembled, none of them had any semblance of interest at the task at hand. Hey, Shizuki, look over there. Akabane and those guys are over there roasting sweet potatoes. What is this, the 50s or something? For those not in the know, this game canonically takes place in the late 80s, if I recall correctly. Looks like they don't even know how to roast them properly. Oh, I know. Want to grill some squid? Kinomi did not want to be here to begin with, and was constantly trying to break Sojiro into joining him. The cleaning squad was divided into groups. Sojiro and Kinomi were in charge of cleaning behind the gymnasium. Sojiro was the leader of the platoon. Kinomi was the grunt. Look, when we finish cleaning up around this fence, you can go off and eat your sweet potato or a squid or whatever it is you want, because it'll be lunchtime. Sojiro said as he expertly packed his swept leaves into trash bags. 2 hours had passed since they assembled on this foggy morning at 7 o'clock. While everyone else chatted and laughed as they worked, Sojiro alone had worked in complete silence at the same blistering pace since he started. The sheer amount of work he put in was likely the only thing keeping him from complaining of the cold in his thin jersey. Come on, let's take a break. Look at that pond. Or should I say, ice skating rink. No, on second thought, it's just a pond. But it's frozen solid, dude. That's how cold it is out here. A normal human can't work in these snowy conditions unless there's some kind of robot. Gonna have to start eating each other to survive if this keeps up. We should just take a break for a minute. We got all these leaves together. Why don't we burn them and get warmed up? Nobody's really watching. Come on, let's grill some squid. Please. For some reason, Kinomi was droning on about his squid. Sojiro had managed to withstand the barrage of complaints from his comrade, but even he was reaching his limit. Kinomi, please. Just then, Sojiro saw the Grim Reaper himself creeping behind Kinomi. In his hands, he held a rake instead of a soft bamboo broom. Sounds good to me. I'll let a bit of grilled squid slide. Far be it from me to get between the big man and his squid. I'll tell you what, I'll even get you the soy sauce. Kinomi shot to attention at the voice behind him. Tsukiji, is that you? Before quickly turning around, swinging his broom in the process. Tobimaru easily blocked the swing with his rake. Oh, so now you want to use that broom, huh? Just can't contain all that hard-working spirit, I see. Maybe I should assign you to the special Siberian Trail, then. Ha! All you've done is stand over by the furnace with those girls, pretending like you're on a Caribbean holiday instead of out here in the freezing cold. I'm sorry, I'd like to take a moment to address a thought that I just had. I was going to ask chat, do you pronounce it Caribbean or Caribbean? But then it occurred to me that you'd just be typing it, so I would never know. It's been a weird day for me. Sorry, I thought that you might get some I pronounce it carry a bean. You also pronounce it near a tomato. That was a good joke. I remember you first telling me that joke. Near automata, near a tomato. Anyway. Focus. Kayfabe. Both boys glared at each other with a wry smile, broom and rake locked in an embrace. These two were only friendly with each other on school grounds. Tobimaru, please don't distract him any more than he already is. Both of them scoffed angrily and put away their weapons. They both knew better than to argue with Sojiro, the only one cleaning with a garbage bag in hand. Something we can help you with, Tobimaru? I thought you were too busy pretending to tend the fire over at the furnace. A harsh comment. Apparently, even Sojiro had a slight taste for drama. So it's come to this. Even the upstanding students like you are looking down on me now. Tobimaru seemed sad at Sojiro's observation. But as long as Tobimaru continued to claim he was helping the girls clean by doing nothing more than standing in front of a pile of burning leaves, Sojiro found it hard to sympathize. Just tell us what you want. We're actually busy doing work over here, unlike some people. Oh, is that so? Well, lucky for you, it's almost break time. Let's get you warmed up over there. Oh, break time! Now you're talking! Huh? Not for you, idiot. Only for people who've actually done some work today can take a break. If you want to come stand by the furnace, then bring me enough leaves to fill a cart. Until then, keep sweeping. I have rights, you know. This is abuse of power. Kinomi's complaints naturally fell on deaf ears. Tobimaru had been selected to lead the cleaning operation, and his word was final. If Kinomi were to continue to push his buttons, he knew he would be on cleaning duty tomorrow and the next day, too. Alright, here we go, people. Don't ask me why, but we have a bunch of cans of sweet red bean soup. Some meat buns would have been better, but that would have required a certain someone to use their brain. We've also got some emergency chocolate. God damn it. What the hell is she thinking? Sojiro reassured Tobimaru by saying that he thought the food would do just fine for everyone. Wait, you're not coming? No, I'm gonna stay here. We can just burn some leaves to stay warm, like Kinomi said. You got a pond right there, so we can easily put it out when we're done. This was clearly for Kinomi's benefit. Tobimaru furrowed his brow while Kinomi shivered from the cold. Is that a glimmer of friendship I just saw? You know what? You're as pure as the snow is white. This is nuts, but just wait here, Shizuki. I'm gonna go grab some potatoes from Akabane. Perhaps shy to show his true feelings, Kinomi ran off to the neighboring group. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Here. Tobimaru pulled out a hot can from his jersey pocket, scratching his head in exacerbation. He pulled out 3 in all, 1 from each jersey pocket and 1 from his pants pocket. Let's get a fire going. I'm gonna chill over here too. I guess we both know how to deal with people, huh? Sojiro quickly prepared the leaves for the fire, carefully gathering them up for them to burn neatly. Got a real bro moment going on here. You're pretty good at that. Yeah, it's easy when you have matches. Sojiro crouched down in front of the burning leaves and warmed his hands near the flames. Even though he showed no signs of being cold, underneath it all, Sojiro was cold too. He gazed into the fire as the smoke rose from the pile of leaves, as if remembering the good times from his past. Tobimaru felt a touch of concern as he looked at Sojiro. He saw within him homesickness and retrospection. He also saw a dark shadow looming over him, like a stranger in a foreign land without a home. You don't look so good, Sojiro. I suppose I am a little tired. If you need to talk, I'm here for you. Just let me know. Tobimaru continued speaking with the pull tab from the can of sweet red bean soup still around his index finger. Sojiro was focused on the fire. Oh yeah, While you were taking a break from school, Aozaki slugged me. She said I've got a big mouth. Wow, congratulations. Sometimes Sojiro would reply incoherently like this. Tobimaru chalked it up to cultural differences. Say, how are things going with Aozaki anyway? I used to walk with her to the train station before exams. Have things been going well since then? It was obvious to everyone that that was far from the case. Yet Tobimaru asked anyway. Yeah, we live together now. Sojiro went with the truthful, blunt response. Wow, I see, I see. That was quick. Dating already, huh? Tobimaru tried to laugh off Sojiro's all-too-casual confession. However... Wait, you live together? Are you okay, Tobimaru? Did a spark hit you? No, worse. My friend just said the wildest thing I've ever heard. Sojiro protested Tobimaru's reply with silence. You're not joking, are you? One day you're barely interested in girls and the next you're shacked up with one? Tobimaru had always felt that he and Sojiro were an equal match, strength-wise. But for some reason, he could not shake the feeling that Sojiro was now his superior in the brain department. Sojiro cast a rare, angry glare in Tobimaru's direction. That was awfully rude. What do you mean I'm not interested in girls? Sojiro seemed genuinely angry, and his voice was icy. This uncharacteristic level of anger from Sojiro was enough to get Tobimaru to back down. Hold on, I'm gonna let Sorry, I wanted to let the audio play. Gilgamesh, thank you for the subscription. You spent too much time gifting. You forgot to get one for yourself. Thanks again, man. Your generosity is unparalleled. Yep. I calls him as I sees him. Hey, look, I was out of line. I just assumed a few things. I apologize. But seriously, what do you mean you're living with her? This all seems way too fast for you. It's not what you think. I'm just renting a room in her house. It's up in the attic, but it reminds me of a mountain cottage, so I kinda like it. Tobimaru did not bat an eyelid at hearing that Sojiro now lived in an attic, and continued his questioning. I mean, we're talking about that mansion, right? The Kuonji mansion? This is out of this world. What kind of wizard are you to pull that off? Huh? You know the place, Tobimaru? Come on, dude. You're talking to the heir to the Tsukiji throne here. Of course I know about the mansion where the first daughter of the Kuonji group lives. She's a sophomore at the Reien Girls Academy, right? Kuonji... what? Sojiro was looking more confused than ever, so Tobimaru reluctantly explained everything as simply as he could, so Sojiro could understand. The Kuonji group. Well, they're more like a foundation, really. All you need to know is the whole family is loaded, and they own and manage various companies together. They're not quite a conglomerate, but they're a big deal in the exports industry. Totally not thinking about Heihachi Mishima right now. They used to operate out of England because their old chairman loved the place, but things went south about 5 years ago, so they moved all their operations back here. Since their son took over, things have been rebounded for them, and that's why you see their name plastered around town. They contributed like half the funds required to rebuild our school. Despite the oversimplified explanation, Sojiro still seemed to not be getting it. With that, Tobimaru decided to give up on trying to explain. They're filthy rich, okay? You know that coffee place you work at? The Kuonjis bought that franchise here. Now they're a national chain. Okay, so they're very rich and very important. Weird. If that's the case, then why is she so frugal all the time? Sojiro mumbled incoherently to himself. Tobimaru looked at him with a complex expression on his face, somewhere between envy and heartfelt sympathy. Whatever the case, you've done good for yourself, buddy. Tell me the truth, though. When a guy and a girl are living under the same roof, only one thing can be happening, am I right? This model can't wink. That's a surprisingly old-fashioned thought for you to have, Tobimaru. No, give me a break. What kind of guy is afraid to talk about this kind of stuff? I suppose you're right. So, the truth is... Though Sojiro and Aoko were living together, there was absolutely no chemistry between them. Though that was not to say that living in such close quarters as they did, unintended mishaps did not occur from time to time. But even still, you'd be surprised how nothing like that goes on. The mansion is pretty huge, after all. Everyone was often busy with their own affairs, so there was no opportunity for that sort of thing to happen. I mean, answer me this. Would you suddenly make advances on Aozaki just because you were living under the same roof? Nope, never. Tobimaru nodded intently, as if he was thinking back over his many ex-relationships. Well, this all sounds very wholesome. Yeah, I feel great. Sojiro gave no more than a quick affirmation to Tobimaru's despondent murmur. He was doing fine. But besides his physical health, it was surely Sojiro's personality that enabled him to maintain any semblance of peace, dealing with both Aoko and Alice while living in that mansion. On an unrelated note, I'm totally indebted to Aozaki. I'm not sure how I can ever repay her for what she's done for me. Sojiro's eyes turned slightly serious as he stared into the fire. Tobimaru felt that there was more to those words than what Sojiro was letting on. So you owe her big time, huh? Sojiro merely nodded in silence at Tobimaru's inquisitive acknowledgement. And just then, a strange scream pierced through the still silence of the wood like a knife. Did you hear that? Yeah, and it was Kinomi. Sojiro had already stood up before he responded. He bolted to the frozen pond, broke the ice with his broom, scooped up some of the frigid water in a bucket, and threw it on the fire, all in less than 10 seconds. Then he immediately ran off into the depths of the woods from where he heard the scream. Tobimaru followed after him in a panicked confusion. Tobimaru, do you know what's down this way? The remains of the old school building should be there. Anything else? You know, like a pack of wild dogs or bad stuff like that? Huh? No, dude. If anything, it'd just be some deer or rabbits or something. And there's nothing to be afraid of. Let's hurry. Perhaps because of his time spent growing up in the mountains, Sojiro quickly sprinted over the slippery dead leaves. Tobimaru was not particularly cautious himself, but nevertheless, he could not keep up with Sojiro in here. Before long, Sojiro found himself running alone. When foliage blocked the natural trail, he would sometimes clear it away by brute force, but just as often, he would expertly weave through the brush. It was clear that he was used to dealing with this level of nature. After a few minutes, Sojiro arrived at a clearing. The wall of trees had ended. It was an obviously man-made clearing here on the mountainside. In the distance was what looked like an old wooden school building. It was a small, aesthetically pleasing building, no larger than an elementary school, lost in the depths of the winter wilderness.
Kinomi!
Kinomi. Kinomi stood alone on the school's grounds.
Huh?
Hey, what are you doing here, Shizuki? A sour expression came over Sojiro's face as Kinomi tilted his head in confusion. That's what I want to know. And what was that scream all about? Huh? What scream? I was just pissed at this dumb kid. Look, there he is. I know he's got some potatoes on him. Damn it, we let him run off inside. Kinomi pointed resentfully toward the old school building. There was indeed somebody standing at the entrance to the building just over 300 feet in the distance. What the hell is he doing up here anyway? Is this where kids hang out nowadays? Kinomi shrugged his shoulders to signal how little he cared what the young children did with their time. This place was deep in the woods, but it was not particularly dangerous. Sojiro had run through the wood to get here, but there was also a paved road leading to this spot from the outside the woods too. Kinomi apparently followed that road to get here. A child? Sojiro squinted. Yeah, he had blonde hair, which kind of freaked me out at first. Foreign kids are scary, man. It was indeed quite rare to see a foreigner in a provincial town such as Misaki. Sojiro had never even seen a foreigner in person, which made the whole thing even more mysterious.
Oh,
excuse me. Why did you feel the need to run all the way up here again? Akabane said that stupid kid stole their food, so I was chasing him down and ended up here. Since you're here, let's team up and see if we can catch him. That's a little menacing, Kinomi. Sojiro could not find it in him to agree with his plan. It seemed unfair to team up against the little kid. Come on, let's head back. That kid is over there just staring at us. And besides, if Tobimaru sees us up here slacking off, we're going to be cleaning this mountain for the whole of winter break. Sojiro took Kinomi by the shoulders and began leading him back to the path he came from. Kinomi cast one last gaze at the old school building before reluctantly following. Just then, Tobimaru appeared, panting and out of breath. How are you so fast? Tobimaru could hardly catch his breath. He arrived about 3 minutes behind Sojiro, despite having a good set of legs on him. So what's going on? Are you alright, Kinomi? Huh? Yeah, I'm fine. But what about you, Your Highness? Kinomi seemed perplexed at Tobimaru's first ever display of concern for him. What the hell is that supposed to mean? You're out here in the middle of nowhere screaming bloody murder. What am I supposed to think? We were worried. That was my fault. I guess I jumped to conclusions. You've probably never heard him do it, but sometimes at work, Kinomi had this habit of letting out a weird yell like that. Kinomi looked disapproving as Sojiro nonchalantly shared this insight. This was the first he had ever heard of it. I'm not buying it. You're up to something, aren't you? Of course not. Come on, Tobimaru, there's cleaning to be done. Sojiro pat Tobimaru on the shoulder a couple of times and started walking. Tobimaru cast a doubtful glare in his direction as he meandered off. He had a feeling that Sojiro was covering for Kinomi somehow. You didn't set the old school building on fire or something, did you? Of course not. Who would even do that? Sojiro kept walking and did not even look back at Tobimaru as he spoke. Tobimaru and Kinomi tilted their heads in confusion as they reluctantly followed the unusually aggressive Sojiro back to their cleaning spot. And so, the special winter cleaning team's activities ended uneventfully. The time was 3 in the afternoon. Upon departing, Kinomi and his crew invited Sojiro to come hang out with them, but he declined politely due to his job that evening. He had about 2 hours until his shift began. Not quite enough time to do anything fun, but just enough time to have to fill it with something. Sojiro thought about relaxing in a park somewhere, but quickly changed his mind after remembering how cold it was, even in the city. Not to forget that Aoko handed him those pills in the morning. Aoko was absolutely correct in her prediction. Heading back to the mansion now would just be a waste of time. There was no reason for him to return to the mansion until after his shift at work. Still, Sojiro found himself on the way back anyway. Having grown up deep in the mountains, a little 2-hour walk was really no sweat off his back. Misaki was one of the more quiet residential areas in Misaki City. The only thing that really stood out here was Shiro Inazuka. It was a hill that led directly into the woods. The silhouette of the mountains served as backdrop to suburbia, silently overshadowing the small human actions of the people who lived there. Even in this modern day of technological progress, the people here were always careful to pay reverence to the nature around them. If that mansion were a shrine, it would not be a haunted house, but a famous tourist attraction. Wait, I just realized something. The houses around Shiro Inazuka were all magnificent. Sojiro had understood as he looked from the bottom of this hill, where the rest of the town lived at the roof of the mansion tucked away in the little woods. He understood what Tobimaru was talking about, how the Kuonji family who owned that mansion might be the richest people in town. They really do hate me. Why else would they ask for rent? Sojiro began walking towards the mansion with such thoughts shimmering in his mind. Sojiro began walking towards the mansion with such thoughts simmering in his mind. Excuse me. The feeling of the hard asphalt beneath his feet, instead of soft dirt, felt lonely and isolating. He walked along the paved road for 10 minutes or so before reaching the iron fence of the wood. Beyond this fence was the private property of the Kuonji family. Gilgamesh, thank you for the bits. I'll just leave this here going to eat lurker time. Enjoy the food. No, yeah. Okay. I was working on setting up a different bit alert that had text-to-speech. So I was a little confused why it didn't go off, but I didn't actually finish setting it up, so it's everything is working as intended. Thank you again for your generosity. Enjoy your meal. Thank you so much. It was bereft of any awkward no trespassing signs. The tall, overbearing iron fence was more than enough to remind visitors that they were unwelcome there. Sojiro casually pushed on the iron gate. Only 2 days had passed since the end of final exams, and he already seemed more than comfortable with the idea of entering this wood alone. The path to the mansion from inside the wood curved and bent like a snake. It took about 15 minutes to reach the mansion on this path. He could have chosen to ignore the long incline and travel in a straight line through the wood, but he would have expended significantly more energy in doing so. No, using the wooded path was the sensible option, barring an emergency. Upon entering the foyer, Sojiro heard a conversation coming from the drawing room. It was no doubt Aoko and Alice. Sojiro decided to join them. I have a feeling that might be a bad decision. Ever since final exams had ended, Aoko and Alice had switched from their daily routine to a more irregular schedule. Aoko would disappear into Alice's room in the west wing of the mansion for a while, where she would remain. And Alice would go into Aoko's room, not to be seen again. Or they would vanish into the corridors leading around to the rear of the mansion, doing who knows what, where Sojiro was most certainly not allowed to enter. Not that he was interested in what they were doing, since Aoko and Alice did not seem to want to include him either, serving both parties nicely. For the time being, the Kuonji estate was pretty peaceful.
Tadaima.
I'm home. Sojiro quietly opened the door to the drawing room. Even though they tried not to be involved in each other's business, Sojiro made it a habit to greet them. The two girls sat across from him on the sofa. On the table in front of them was a large, extravagantly decorated mirror. Aoko was dressed for comfort, wearing jeans instead of her usual skirt. In stark contrast, Alice was dressed in her usual all black. Even though the break from school was well underway, the witch still insisted on wearing black. As Aoko had explained, it was probably because it was too much effort for Alice to wear anything else. Sojiro's thought was that he would like to see her wear something different. Aoko and Alice seemed to be in the middle of some sort of dispute. The air in the drawing room was tense. They both ignored his greeting. Alice only briefly looked up at him. What about the Tokawa point? That pillar is white, so hopefully it won't be easy to remove. Yes, the Tokawa one is still active, but the Suzuho support next to it is gone, so we can't really be too careful. With each sigil they discover, they get better at finding the others. Are they making a bounded field? That makes sense. I guess once they found one, they can easily find the other connections. I really messed up. I should have been more careful. This is going to turn into a weekly battle soon. The two continued their heated discussion from opposite sides of the table. Aoko neglected to even glance up at Sojiro. Sojiro sensed that she wanted to concentrate on the discussion at hand. It's so strange, though. Setting aside the timing of the puppet that night and how quickly they were able to find our expertly hidden sigil, whoever it is most definitely has to have some kind of hideout in the city. But if that's the case, why aren't we detecting any abnormalities in the field? The dragnet around Misaki City hasn't been broken for nearly 100 years. Aoko bit her nails nervously, while Alice nodded along. It seemed as though she was wondering the same thing. Even my mother wasn't able to touch this bounded field. That was right. Although I'm pretty sure they mentioned it before. The only person capable of getting through it, Misaki's bounded field, would have been not your grandfather, or an even more capable mage. But someone exuding that level of magical energy would find it that much harder to cover his or her tracks. It could be some kind of unique concealment ward, but I haven't heard anything about any new fairy circles forming in these past few years. Where was it? Sherwood Forest? The May King was able to break through your mist, remember? Do you think there's some sort of concealment stronger than that? All I'm saying is, if whoever we're dealing with has skills greater than our own, maybe there are some techniques we aren't aware of. Either way, we need to reevaluate things. We might be under more pressure than we thought. The two fell silent. Sojiro, after some internal deliberation, decided to break the silence.
Yeah, tadaima.
So, I'm home. Aoko finally looked up at him in response to his hesitant declaration. That's fine, Sojiro, but will you please take a bath? You're dirty. And with that, Aoko returned her gaze to the mirror. Alice briefly looked up at Sojiro again, before also returning her gaze to the mirror. Perhaps feeling at least somewhat satisfied that his greeting was acknowledged, Sojiro left the drawing room and closed the door behind him. Aoko was right. His clothes were a little soiled. Sojiro had left, but the two girls were still locked in their heated discussion. Needless to say, the topic of their conversation was still that of the outsider mage who had apparently appeared in Misaki City last month. This was, after all, the problem that had occupied their time before this whole situation with Sojiro arose. Dealing with and eliminating the interloper who had set his or her sights on their territory. All this time we'd been preoccupied by a decoy, no doubt also a part of their plan. Then, while we're distracted, they've crept in and stolen another one. The fight against this mage has only just begun. The situation was growing more dire by the day. Until only a couple of days ago, the enemy had limited themselves to small skirmishes, but now they had shifted to a full-on offensive. Aoko had two major bounded fields she used for defense. One, the larger of the two, was placed around Misaki City to detect magical energy and magecraft. This was used to observe and monitor visitors from outside the city, and was initially set up by Aozaki's ancestors, the administrators of this territory, and had no way to be removed. The other was set up to energize and manage ley lines from within the territory. The 5 sigils carved into the earth made up a standard square-type array, protecting all that lay within its bounds. After some manipulation of the mana flow, the power within was directed to accumulate at the Kuonji estate. That is to say, the bounded field existed to monopolize the magical energy within Misaki City. There were 5 sigils in total, with the Kuonji estate located in the center. If all 5 sigils were forcibly removed, Aoko's jurisdiction over this territory would be in title only. Without the power of Without the power of the land to back them up, they would be forced to fight back against their invaders on equal ground, with only their own innate abilities to protect them. The only reason Alice and the inexperienced Aoko were able to defend this territory so far was because of these 2 fields. The dragnet that notified Aozaki of any threats was also her lifeline. But this time, their enemy had somehow slipped through the cracks and was running rampant. This was what the girls had to face up to. Either way, it's just a matter of time at this point. Once all the sigils are destroyed, this mansion will be our last stronghold of defense. Are you okay with that, Aoko? I mean, what other choice do we have? Like you said, it's only a matter of time before the sigils are destroyed. Our best chance would be to find their hideout, but it's not exactly a necessity. They can remove the sigils for all I care. As long as you're here, then the mansion itself shouldn't be a problem to defend. And if they do, then they're marching to their own demise. What else is there to worry about? Nothing, I suppose. With only a single opponent to deal with, we're better off focusing the field of the mirror on the estate, and making this mansion our last line of defense. Alice touched the mirror on the table with her pale fingers. The surface of the mirror rippled like water. The mirror was another protector of Misaki City, separate from Aozaki's bounded fields. More accurately, it was a ploy that existed only to protect Alice Kuonji rather than Misaki City itself. It generated a thick fog and acted as an invitation to any visitors, drawing them into its board game-like world. Alice referred to it only as the Mirror. But it was known to her friends as the Mirror of Slumber. This was a magecraft that Alice Kuonji wielded. Within the rippling surface of the mirror, an image of a castle began to form, and also a lush forest, a field, and a river. Aoko stared at the mirror in silence. It could very well be a reality marble. Before suddenly jumping to her feet off the sofa. Now that that's all decided, we can get back to actually doing stuff. I'm going out, Alice. We can't do anything until we have the eyes on the ground. Alice let out a tired sigh in response to Aoko's determination, then gave the mirror a gentle caress. The sound of dropping water filled the room. The mirror began to consume the table in a thick fog with a single caress from Alice. If we're visiting each sigil, we definitely won't be back until morning. Nah, we'll be home in no time. Oh, right, I meant to ask you. Is this the proper way to do a fire pentagram banishment? Aoko traced a shape in the air with her fingers. She mimed a star shape, starting from the top, moving down and to the right, from there to the upper left, and so on. It's about time you learn something other than how to break things, Aoko. Alice sat up from the sofa, letting out a heavy sigh. They both took their coats from their hangers and left the drawing room. Well, excuse me. I guess I need to study some more on top of all the studying I already do. Remember that charm I pulled off just the other day? What charm? That's simple. Mesmerize. You know, the one you taught me. Light and frail, nimble and quick. Tick-tock, tick-tock. There's no time to waste. That one. Are you being serious right now? Yes, I'm serious. You can ask Sojiro later if you don't believe me. Alice swallowed her words, clearly displeased. She likely stopped herself in time to realize it was not worth the effort to take issue with it. On the topic, what will he do while we're away? He'll be fine. As long as he doesn't try to go into the West Wing or anything like that, there shouldn't be any immediate threat to his... Aoko responded hastily as she opened the door to the foyer. As soon as she did, just as quickly as Alice's doubts had gotten stuck in her throat, Aoko suddenly froze, unable to speak. Half-naked boy. For a moment, Aoko wasn't sure who was standing before her. She could only stare at the glittering rays of sunlight creeping into the room as she reeled from the shock. Her mind was completely blank. It was as if she had just woken up from a nap, or a jack-in-the-box had just opened in her face. Sojiro was probably the only person who truly knew how long that dumbfounded silence went on. What the hell are you doing standing there like that? Aoko had finally found her voice. What? I'm changing clothes. Sojiro's response was matter-of-fact. He offered no explanation as to why he was changing in the foyer and not the bathroom. Bro, look at his fucking... I'm trying to be built like that, man. Just slim and cut. It's not really my body type. I'm built to be jacked more than cut. Anyway. Aoko was too shocked to read him the riot act. Sojiro was putting a shirt on after presumably just getting out from the bath. His neck was wrapped in bandages, and he was completely shirtless. His hair was wet, but his skin wasn't glistening from the steam of hot water. He must have washed himself with nothing more than cold water. Neck bandages mentioned. From Aoko's perspective, I think that's probably the first time that she's ever noticed them. Though shocked as to why anyone would do such a thing in this cold weather, she let it slide. The source of her silent stupor was simply his body. You like Krabby Patties, don't you, Mr. Squidward? Until now, she'd only seen him as harmless. Without his clothing to hide him, however, he was more fit than she'd ever imagined. For a rough mountain upbringing where one's body and strength meant survival, perhaps he was even a bit underdeveloped. And on top of that, are those scars? Aoko asked cautiously. Sojiro followed her gaze. He had something that looked like a burn scar on his arm. It was random in appearance, nothing like Aoko's mage crest with its ordered patterns. Oh, this? A long time ago, I was attacked by a pack of wild dogs and they bit me. It's a miracle I'm even still alive. So, if anything, I'm fond of the scar. A long time ago? He must be talking about when he was a child. Though his life was saved, it was apparent that he hadn't been able to receive proper treatment deep in the mountains where he lived. Those scars were proof of that. Considering it had happened so many years ago, it was likely they would never fade. If only for an instant, Aoko thought the wild scars left on his skin suited his lean and body perfectly. I know it's not pleasant to look at. I should have just changed in my own room. Sojiro sounded slightly ashamed as he put on his shirt, looking at Aoko standing there in cold silence. The two girls had no response. Sojiro headed for the stairs to go back to his room. Wait a second, Sojiro. Sojiro stopped and turned around. So, how do I say this? Aoko looked away awkwardly, and apparently not knowing why she had stopped her. That really got me tripped up. Aoko looked away awkwardly, apparently not knowing why she had stopped him herself. Well, this isn't like you, Aozaki. You're acting strange. Did you get a fever or something? I bet neither of you have gotten enough sleep since all that, have you? He was, of course, referring to the final exams. From Sojiro's perspective, the amount of work Aoko put in seemed strange. I don't have a fever. That's not what this is about. I just want to know why the hell you're changing clothes here. Aoko was doing her best to keep up appearances. But for some reason, Sojiro was hesitant to say too much more. So, well, this isn't easy to say. But you need to take care of your underwear better. I don't know whose it is, though. Alice, who had been completely silent behind Aoko, couldn't resist responding to that statement. Although she hadn't wanted to get involved, this was something she couldn't ignore. I must point out it was most definitely Aoko. Alice's response was quick and to the point. I may have been in charge of laundry, but... Aoko seemed like she was just holding back on going critical. Anyway, I really have to get dressed or I'm going to be late for work. Sensing that those two were probably about to get into an argument, Sojiro took his chance to leave. And with that, Sojiro briskly left the scene.
アリス、
Alice,
とりあえず
I'll
片
go
付けてく
clean
るわ。
up. Alice calmly walked into the bathroom. A few minutes later, just as the two were about to head out and fulfill their duties as mages, Aoko remembered something she wanted to ask.
そうだアリス、傷ってあれの
Alice,
こと？
do you think those scars were...
あれは傷跡じゃな
I
いわ。
don't think so.
だって
He seemed so
あん
proud
なにも
after
誇
all.
らしいもの。
Aoko agreed. What had impressed her the most about those scars was how he treated them simply as a part of his past, absent of any regret. Aoko wouldn't have gone so far as to say he was proud, but it seemed her instincts had been correct. That and one more thing.
でも一つだけはっきりした。
One thing is clear, though.
それじゃあ
I wasn't the one who was pleasantly surprised at what I saw, was I, Alice?
アリス、
I wasn't the only one, she said. Aoko smiled wryly at Alice, like a child who knew they were doing something they shouldn't with their friend. God, I really like Aoko's smug face. Alice was trying to ignore her as best she could. She looked away without saying a word. Aoko let out a satisfied snicker and began walking towards the front door.
じゃ行こうか。
Let's get
まず
going.
はあの公園からでいい
We
で
should
しょ。
probably start at that park, right?
今回の件は
Since that's where all
あ
this
そこから
started.
全てが始まったわけだし。
She was talking about the local park in Misaki. The place where they had run into the enemy puppets and, of course, where their involvement with Sojiro had all begun. Is begun grammatically correct there, or would it be began? Or does it matter? Questions for later. Early the next morning. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. Most people were still in their beds sleeping. Although some 24-hour convenience stores had opened last year, Misaki Town was still very much living in the good old days of the early 80s. Even the tofu shop in the shopping district, known for opening earlier than anywhere else, didn't open until 6. Begun is correct because it's after had. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's grammatically correct. I was just thinking because it was dialogue, I had like that's not important. Aoko speaks with proper grammar. Usually when in my own writing, I'm gonna take a little aside here. In my own writing, whenever there's a character speaking dialogue, I allow them to be grammatically incorrect because people don't tend to harp on grammar in their own speech. Some people do, most people don't, and speech writing is a lot different. Dialogue writing is a lot different from narrative writing, so it's it adds a little personality, I think. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. But this was the late 80s, during the latter half of Japan's bubble economy. It was a time when metropolitan areas never slept. Those in the countryside, however, remained in the past. The homes were blanketed in silence. The streets were empty of commuters, and not a single automobile could be heard. The sun was just barely peeking over the horizon. The town would still be asleep for at least an hour longer before it began waking up. It was during this time that someone stepped onto the Koonji estate. Sojiro was working the late shift during winter vacation and had just come home. He moved quietly through the drawing room so he wouldn't wake up Aoko and Alice, who were presumably still asleep. The Kuonji estate had a few established rules. One of those rules forbade more Japanese tea. This new rule had only come into effect 3 days prior. It was proposed after Alice saw Sojiro drinking green tea in the kitchen after dinner one night. Ah. Looking back on it, the decision had been made rather abruptly. That single gasp of surprise was all Alice had said. She grasped her head as if she was battling the most vicious of migraines, called for Aoko, and then made the decision to ban all Japanese teas from this mansion. By some miracle, Aoko managed to negotiate and keep Sojiro's privileges to barley tea during the summer. Even the British only drank green tea at first, you know. Aoko had clearly hit a nerve with this argument. Aoko stared at Alice, fairly certain why she was so taken aback by Sojiro's actions. I don't get why it's such a big deal. Tea is good no matter what kind it is. Sojiro grumbled to himself while sipping his hot green tea. He didn't realize that Alice was upset because he had poured his green tea into a teacup meant for black tea. In Sojiro's defense, this was the only teacup that Alice had given him permission to use. At any rate, the early morning was his to enjoy. This was his moment to relax with the Japanese tea he'd smuggled in. He didn't use this time to read books or watch TV, he just drank his tea and gazed fondly at the garden, or rather the dense woods outside. Sojiro simply sat, relaxed, and let his mind wander. About an hour passed. Just as he was beginning to feel refreshed, he heard sounds coming from the foyer. He knew it was Aoko and Alice talking, so he rushed to hide his teacup, teapot, and tea leaves in the kitchen. Hiding the contraband was easy enough, considering just how many unused shelves there were in the kitchen. Sojiro was perturbed by how they wasted the potential of such a splendid kitchen. Oh, you're up early, Sojiro. Aoko spoke as she took off her white down jacket. Next to her, Alice silently took off her black coat. No, I just got home, actually. I started working the late shift at a food factory over in Amigahama. Sojiro stuck his head out from the kitchen and gestured that he was about to put on some water to boil. Alice tilted her head slightly at him. It wasn't that she thought his gesturing was funny or anything like that. Amagihama. Alice glanced up at the clock in the drawing room, and her expression darkened. What's wrong, Alice? Aoko asked this from her comfortable seat on the sofa. Nothing. Alice responded indifferently before finally sitting down as well. Sojiro, just one spoon of sugar, remember? Aoko yelled her matter-of-course request into the kitchen. Sojiro didn't respond, but it was an affirmative silence. This was the result of 2 entire nights' worth of cramming that Alice knew nothing about. What about you, Alice? I'll just have mine with milk. Alice responded out of obligation. Tea with milk. Got it. For some reason, Sojiro dutifully answered Alice's request. Fine. I get sick of his voice if he replied every time anyway. Anyway, isn't it pretty rare for you to be drinking tea from a tea bag, Alice? I'm just tired today. I thought I might as well. It seems she had allowed herself to accept another's kindness, at least for today.
ふーん
If you say so.
そ
More
れより
importantly,
宗十郎
Sojuro,
あんたさっきおか
didn't
し
you
なこと
say
言わな
something
かった
weird earlier?
別に
I
言
don't
ってない
think
ぞ
so.
そんなこと。
そうならいいんだけど
Oh, I could have sworn you said something. The two were conversing over a distance of 4 yards. Alice decided to add her opinion to the conversation.
しずきくんがおかしなことを
I
言わ
don't
な
think
い
a day has
日は
ever
ないと思
gone
うが
by when he hasn't said something weird, to be honest. Her tone was luckily just low enough that Sojiro couldn't hear her from the kitchen.
そりゃそうだけど
I agree,
今ちょ
but
っと変だっ
seriously,
たでしょ
wasn't he talking kind of strangely just now?
いや何が引っかかったのか
I don't
までは
exactly
わ
know
から
how
ない
to
けどさ
describe it.
そうね
True, the conversation itself was normal, but something did seem off about what he was saying.
どこかおかしいわね
Aoko became gradually more irritated as she failed to grasp what had been odd about the conversation. Just then, Sojiro appeared holding a tray with a teacup for each of them.
何を話してるんだ
What are you guys talking
単に
about?
新しいア
I
ルバイトを
literally just
始
said
め
I
ただけだ
started
ろ
a new part-time job. That's all. He put the cups down on the black table without making even the slightest sound. Alice couldn't complain about how proper his job as a waiter had made him. While she didn't say anything out loud, she did nod in his direction to show some gratitude. Aoko, however,
天城浜だっけ
Amagihama
あそ
wasn't.
こってスタジアムがあるところでしょ
There's a huge stadium over there that I go to sometimes when a band I like is on tour. The student council president, a supposed model student, loved rock bands. Hell yeah. Aoko was secretly obsessed with a number of bands, and used to travel way out of town just to see them perform live when she was in middle school. Of course, this was a world that Sojiro was far from familiar with.
それよりまた新しい
Anyway,
バイト
I
始めた
can't
んだ
believe you started yet
そ
another
んなに
part-time
働いて
job.
どうする気なのよ
What are you trying to
宗十郎
accomplish working that hard, Sojiro?
ああよく聞い
Oh,
てくれ
you
た
were
ね
listening.
本人の名誉のためにな
Well, I have to work more because there are a couple of people in my life who like to take all my money from me for every little thing you can imagine.
働く先を増やしたんだ
This was as much resistance as Sojiro was able to give. Aoko lifted her teacup to her mouth as if she was completely oblivious to Sojiro's monologue. I can't believe he's adapted to sarcasm. Way to go, kid. You're learning. You're learning their game, and you're getting better than they are at it.
それは大変ね
Sounds rough. Oh, scathing. Alice said this as she set her teacup down quietly. There were some things she just did not understand. Aoko had to hold back her laughter as she looked at Alice and Sojiro.
言った自分
I
の
should have known
道だ
better than to say anything. Sojiro's shoulders fell as he said this. He took a sip of his black tea, still unsure about the taste.
まあ
As long as you know I'm working a lot, I guess that's fine.
そういったわけだから
So that means I'll also be away at night during winter vacation.
例の薬
I'll
は
have
ア
to
ル
take
バイ
those
ト
pills
先
at
で飲む
work,
しか
though.
ないんだけど
ああそれなら
Oh,
心
don't
配
worry
いらない
about
わ
that. I'm done
も
with
うあ
those.
れはやめたからいちいち作るのも面
They
倒
were
だ
a pain
し
to make, and I found something more suitable for you anyway.
を見つけてきたの
Aoko had a huge, ominous grin on her face. She put her hand into her jacket pocket and pulled out a little paper bag. It was a small circular object, about 20 inches in diameter, wrapped up nicely like a present.
これは入居
Here's a
祝い
little something to celebrate
こ
your
れから
moving
は
in
それを
here.
つけておくのよ
I want you to
そう
wear
じゃ
that from now on, Sojiro. Sojiro opened the paper bag. Inside was a white belt. But it wasn't a belt for putting around your waist to keep your pants up. To put it as clearly as possible, it was a collar. Would. Anyway,
青子
Alice's expression darkened at this turn of events. But it wasn't clear whether it was her friend's insidiousness or sympathy for Sojiro that concerned her.
どう気に入った
So, what do you think? Aoko was clearly a little crazy. At least she wasn't totally serious. It was obvious that it was at least half a prank, to just see how Sojiro would react. But Sojiro was solemnly considering the collar he had just been gifted. If the collar has a bell, it's confirmed that Sojiro is a cat. Kind of soft confirmed, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what this means, but it's the first time anyone has given me something like this. Aw, he's so precious. He's just happy to have received a gift. He actually sounded like this would be a happy memory for him. Alice narrowed her eyes at what was transpiring. But what exactly am I supposed to use this for?
簡単よ
It's simple. It's like the golden headband in Journey to the West. Wukong had to wear it if he stepped out of line, though this you wear around your neck like a dog collar. Fucking Journey to the West name drop? Let's go. I'm so glad that we started reading. There's been a few, like, mythological tales and fairy tales and stuff mentioned. It's cool. Sojiro grimaced when he finally understood Aoko's mean-spirited gift. He really wanted to ask her what kind of person comes up with such an evil idea. All right, I'm gonna take a moment to speak about Sun Wukong's golden headband because I can't help myself, and it's Mythos Monday. Come on. So. In Journey to the West is like classic Eastern literature. Journey to the West is about a monk who's traveling. I haven't read it myself, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's about a monk who's... Journey to the West is the original DBZ. I guess that's a pretty... I guess it's a pretty apt way to put it, yeah. If you ever seen Dragon Ball... Journey to the West, it kind of is just that, but a little different. It really saved me a lot of floundering. Thanks for that. But yes, previous to Journey to the West beginning, the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, or Son Goku, was a force of pure chaos, and just kind of did whatever the hell he wanted. And in order for him to go on this journey with, I want to say Tripitaka was his name, the monk who, the main character, the gods insisted that he wear a golden headband. The golden headband could be controlled by Tripitaka and would begin to shrink around his head, causing him massive pain anytime he stepped out of line. This was because the Monkey King was indeed so powerful that he could just ruin the whole thing for everybody at any time. So he desperately needed a nerf. Before this point, in fact, before he was asked to go on this journey, he had to be buried under a mountain in order to keep him in check for a while. Journey to the West is something we'll definitely try and check out on a later episode of Mythos Mondays, because that's something I only know a little bit about. I know Overly Sarcastic Productions on YouTube has been doing a series on Journey to the West for the past few years. That's where I've gotten most of my information on that story, because to read it oneself is kind of a feat. I've always been hesitant to do so, but if given the opportunity and if given enough interest, maybe we can look into doing it a little bit on stream. There's a different epic story I'm in the middle of right now, though. I don't have time to start something quite as robust as Journey to the West when I'm on the Grand Line. So basically, if I divulge any secrets or disobey you, then that collar will choke me. Is that right? Are you sure you're feeling well, Aozaki?
あら、首輪は嫌？
Oh, do you not like it?
薬草十郎に似
I
合いそう
tried
な
to
も
pick
の
out
を
what
見
I
つけた
thought
の
would suit
に。
you best. Aoko still had an evil grin on her face. But Sojiro had a surprising response to this gift that Aoko had clearly gotten as a prank. I guess you're right. I mean, it's better than taking poison every day, and the belt itself looks well made. I actually like it. Thank you, Aozaki. He spoke 100% truthfully. Aoko's face contorted in disbelief, and she could only mumble if he was serious. I'm happy about any act of kindness. Even more so when it's from you, Aozaki. And with that, Sojiro put the belt around his neck. He placed it over the bandages already there. I guess this works. It's a little tight, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. Despite his words to the contrary, Sojiro tugged at the belt uncomfortably and adjusted it. It was such a perverse scene that even Aoko's face was red as a beet, even though this had all been her idea. Perhaps it was because it gave her such a clear reminder of the scars she had seen the day before. Okay, is it on right? Aoko retreated guiltily as Sojiro came closer for her to check the fit of his new collar. If you don't say anything, how will I know if it fits right? It's okay, I'll just ask Alice. Ask Alice. Sojiro shifted his gaze from Aoko to Alice. Alice stared intently at Sojiro wearing his new collar and said,
ロックね。
Punk rock,
青子
hmm?
趣味に走りす
Aoko,
ぎよ。
stop trying to dress him how you want him to look. She could not have put it any more bluntly.
いや、やかましい。
Shut up!
そんなんじゃない。
That's not what I was trying to do! Go ask Alice, but she's 10 feet tall.
もういい。とにかくそういうことよ。これからはその首輪が
Just ignore her. From now on, that collar will replace those pills I was giving you. Don't you go divulging any of our secrets. Aoko was oddly emphatic as she spoke, before stomping off toward the hallway.
それと、これからお
I'm
昼
gonna
ま
take
で
a
仮面
nap
を取る
until
けど、
lunch.
くだ
If
ら
you
ない
wake
こ
me
と
up
で
for
起こした
any
ら殺
stupid
すから。
reason, I will murder you. Aoko slammed the door behind her as she left the drawing room. Sojiro stared in amazement. I'll never understand why she gets so mad like that all of a sudden. He murmured to himself, forgetting that Alice was standing right there in front of him.
しずきくんには悪意が
I
通じ
assume
ない
it's
からで
because
しょ
her ill intent doesn't
気
seem
に
to
す
get
る
through
必
to
要
you.
はないわ。
I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. Ill intent? What, just now? Alice looked up at Sojiro's innocent response. There was a glimmer in her eyes that showed surprise at her current actions.
なんでもないから
It's
気
nothing.
にしないで。
Don't worry about it. With that terse reply, she returned to her usual expressionless self. There was no use explaining Aoko's feelings. Aoko bought that collar for the sole purpose of annoying Sojiro and causing mischief. When things didn't turn out how she planned, her conscience got the better of her. Sojiro mistakenly thought that Aoko was angry at him, when in reality she was only angry at herself. Alice didn't bother telling Sojiro all of these heartwarming details, though. Not because it was too much work, just because she was never one to have meaningless conversation. That was how she had been raised.
しずきくんは
So, what are your plans for the rest of the day, Shizuki? Alice suddenly changed the topic. Sojiro thought for a while before replying.
夕方までゆっくりするよ。
I'm just going to relax until the evening. I've been way too busy recently.
せっかくだからテレビも見てい
I
た
want
い
to watch
し。
some TV now, since we have to wake up Aozaki at lunchtime, right?
そうなら
Right.
静かにして
Just keep it quiet then. Alice let out a gentle sigh and rose to her feet. Just keep it quiet. Sojiro would understand exactly what she meant by those words in just a few minutes. The sun shining through the window was bright. It was just about 9 o'clock, about time for the morning television programs to get going. Sojiro was sitting on the sofa, staring out the window at the scene outside. The view from the neighboring sunroom showed a courtyard in a state of disrepair. Sojiro could appreciate the outdoors in both its natural wild state and when tamed by human hands. I really need to do something about that sometime soon. Sojiro muttered to himself, turning another page in his textbook. On the table before him was a mathematics textbook and a notebook with Aoko's name on it. Although at first glance he appeared to be a diligent student studying on his day off, he was in truth only doing so as a compromise. He had given up on his main intent of watching the morning television shows. The reason why he gave up was simple. He was being considerate of Alice, who sat in front of him with her nose buried in a book. Instead of holding herself up in her room, she'd brought out her old, dusty books to read. This is what she meant when she had said to keep quiet. Sojiro found it difficult to turn on the TV. I guess I won't be watching TV for a while. With that decided, Sojiro resigned himself to reviewing some of the practice problems he'd gotten wrong. In the drawing room, for some reason. There wasn't any particular purpose in doing it there, but he also had no real reason to study back up in his room. And so there he was, leisurely highlighting his textbook with Alice there in the same room. To Sojiro, there really was no difference between his room in the attic and the drawing room with Alice. To be fair, he could probably live with a tiger as long as it didn't cause any trouble. That was both Sojiro's biggest strength and his biggest weakness. Before he knew it, the clock was showing 11. He'd spent 2 hours doing his math problems, but wasn't even halfway finished. More than that, he was disappointed in himself for lacking the courage to speak up at all. In comparison, Aozaki is really working hard. He dropped his mechanical pencil onto the notebook and watched it roll away. He knew that Aoko and Alice were busy with something since final exams had ended. He also knew that she had hardly gotten any sleep recently. If she had been able to ignore him during exams, she probably would have had an easier time. Today's nap was probably the first proper sleep Aoko had gotten in days. Though she showed no signs of exhaustion, despite the fact that she must have hit peak long ago, she always seemed raring to go. It wasn't that she was trying to act tough. That was just the kind of person she was. Always positive, always tough as nails. And that was exactly why she came off as completely irrational at times. But if that was the case, you could probably describe Alice in exactly the same way. Sojiro couldn't help but feel a bit inadequate when he saw their single-minded focus on their goals. He'd been so preoccupied with adjusting to his new life that he'd neglected to think about what he was going to do with himself after. Thinking about this cast a gloomy cloud over his heart. He felt like he'd never find a clear purpose in life, like Aoko and Alice seemed to have. At least, not since he'd left the mountains. His old life was gone now, never to return. He was like a kite cut from its string, destined to fly only where the winds took it. And without anything to ground him, he couldn't do anything about the empty future that lay ahead. He could only let himself fly where the currents took him, slowly losing sight of the ground below. There's all the conveniences you could ask for here, but nothing I truly desire. The town was full of options, but he could find nothing. He'd asked himself the same questions time and time again. It never made him feel any better. If anything, it only made him feel worse and worse. That, or maybe he felt that lamenting his own ineptitude would lead to finding some kind of goal or desire someday. Tired of his own sniveling, Sojiro dejectedly closed his notebook. When he looked up, he saw only his face reflected back at him in the TV screen. His new collar was there around his neck, looking as out of place as ever. Perhaps a fool like him, who felt weak when faced with others' strengths, did need to wear a collar after all. This is silly. I shouldn't worry about this until I'm actually an adult. He shook off his thoughts of doom and gloom and sat up straight. After psyching himself up a little, he stood up from the sofa. I'm gonna make some food. You want anything, Alice? Sojiro asked casually. While Sojiro had been doing his own thing, he had remained mindful of Alice. Alice looked up, surprised at hearing her name. She had completely forgotten Sojiro was even there. Me? Yes, you. You've only had some tea all morning. If I'm going to be cooking, I might as well cook for everyone. Without waiting for her to reply, Sojiro headed off to the kitchen while putting on his apron. Alice tried to wave at him to stop, but by then he'd already disappeared into the kitchen. She was hesitant to walk all the way in there, just to tell him she didn't need anything. And besides, she was actually hungry. Sojiro's proposal made sense, and her empty stomach agreed. Alice was hungry, and Sojiro was going to make lunch. Making lunch for both of them would save the time and the trouble of cooking 2 separate meals. There was no logical reason for Alice to refuse his gesture. She decided to stay quiet and tacitly accept his offer. He is so strange. She whispered the words softly, not for anyone in particular to hear, but herself. The truth was, however, Alice had been in a bad mood all morning. After checking all the sigils around Misaki City and boarding the first train back from Tokawa, all she wanted to do was spend the rest of her day reading until the words turned into a jumble. Her iron resolve to complete this task would not be interrupted by someone else milling about in the drawing room. This was her mansion, and there was no way she was going to lock herself up in her room on account of Sojiro. However, with that said, she knew it would be wrong to kick Sojiro out for no real reason. As it stood, Sojiro had actually kept quiet like she'd asked, He wasn't in the wrong here. If Alice had really wanted to be alone, she should have gone to her room.
静かにして
I should have told him to leave me alone instead of just telling him to be quiet.
と言うべきだった
Alice had defiantly stayed in the drawing room, despite realizing the dilemma she'd put herself in. She had figured Sojiro would eventually make a ruckus and run off to hide in his attic room. Her assumption could not have been more wrong. Sojiro never left the drawing room. Moreover, she had actually stopped caring that he was there. Though he hadn't paid her any attention, he hadn't ignored her either. They had simply sat in silence together, without any awkwardness. Alice felt the freedom of being alone, along with the comfort of someone being by her side. I can really relate to that. To put it into words, Sojiro was just that kind of person. That was probably the only reason Alice had been able to sleep so soundly with him there next to her. Sojiro continued cooking in the kitchen, oblivious to the thoughts that went through Alice's head. She couldn't see him from the drawing room, but she could easily imagine him cooking in the kitchen.
変な人ね
He really is strange. Alice resumed reading after unwittingly stating her feelings out loud a second time. The sunlight beaming into the drawing room showed that it was noon. The sunlight actually looked warm, despite it being a cloudy winter day. Just as noon struck, Sojiro returned to the drawing room with 2 sets of plates. Some food of an indescribable color was piled on the large cream-colored plates.
これ
This is, She hadn't expected much, and since she also hadn't requested anything, she could just refuse it if it was something she didn't want. But this food left her at a loss for words despite psyching herself up.
これは
What
何
is this? Alice spoke, as though she was terrified of what had been placed before her.
何って
I just put some stuff on top of stir-fried udon noodles. If Aoko had been there, she probably would have punched him. But Sojiro just confidently placed the 2 large plates on the table. Steam billowed from the mountain of food like an angry volcano ready to erupt at any moment. The thick mystery sauce flowed over the plates, as magma might from said eruption. And below it all were a seemingly infinite number of slimy, tentacle-like noodles. There was really nothing more to say about it. This was clearly the food of a poor, struggling student who favored quantity over quality. All that was required was a basic recipe, the will to cook something, and what few ingredients were needed. The pile of stir-fried noodles with sauce slathered on top was so horrifically bad, it was almost an art form. This was a bachelor's cooking, if she'd ever seen it. There was really nothing else you could call it. She had wondered what he was doing for an hour in there, but it turned out he had been making this sauce. No sauce would have been fine, but Sojiro had wholeheartedly gone the extra mile. Sojiro bowed his head slightly and picked up his chopsticks. He had brought a fork for Alice. Not the quivering fork, dude. That's funny. She picked up the fork and stuck it into the noodles, half drowning in sauce. Sojiro began eating, not seeming to care that Alice sat there looking like she was about to eat poison. Seeming to view this as a challenge, Alice furrowed her brow and slowly brought the mass of noodles to her mouth. It was a little salty and ugly to look at, but it didn't taste all that bad. If anything, it was actually pretty good.
一つ聞きたいんだけど。
So I want to ask you something. Sojiro put down his chopsticks and turned to speak to Alice.
実際の話、
Be honest with me.
魔術師の話は
Major
ともか
not,
くとして、
Aozaki hasn't actually
青崎
taken
は
a
まだ
life yet, has
誰
she?
にも手を出してないんじゃないか。
Alice looked up quietly at the sudden question. She had been inspecting Sojiro's meal, but now she looked straight at him.
おかしなことを聞くのね。
That's a rather odd question, Shizuki.
アリスには悪い。
I know. I hate to ask you, but it's just not something I feel comfortable asking
言いたくなけ
Aozaki
れば答
directly.
えないでくれ。
If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. Alice didn't respond. Sojiro resumed eating, not seeming disappointed. Alice stared blankly at him, slurping his noodles. After much hesitation, she replied,
しずきくんの言うとおり
No, just like you said,
青子はまだ人を
Aoko hasn't
殺したこ
killed
とは
anyone
ない
yet.
わ。その行為自体
She has been involved in that sort
何
of
回
thing
かこ
multiple
なしてはいる
times,
けれ
though.
ど
Alice's response was slow and measured. Sojiro still looked troubled. But not at the conversation they were having. Rather, he looked apologetic toward Alice. He'd said she didn't have to answer if she didn't want to. But Alice kept talking, despite the face he was making.
しずきくんが見た
That
公
day
園
you
で
saw
の
us
出
in
来
the
事は
park was the first time Aoko had
青子
ever
にと
killed
って初め
anything.
ての殺人行為。
That was just a puppet, though.
I-
Sojiro silently nodded. Alice narrowed her eyes at him suspiciously.
まるで
It
初めから分か
almost
ってい
seems
た
like you
そ
knew
う
all of this from the beginning.
そうじゃな。い
No, not...
や、
well,
そうなの
maybe.
かな。たまにその手のセリフを言うけど、
She just says stuff like that sometimes, but it never feels like she's ever actually killed
青
anyone
崎はま
before.
だ人殺しというのを体験していないんじゃないかって。でもまあ、
But more
そ
than
んなこ
that,
とよりもっと確か
I
な
guess the best evidence is
しずきくんが
the fact that you're
今
still
生きて
alive.
いるということね。
Sojiro chuckled at Alice's stellar response. Exactly. Things would have been more clear-cut that night if Aoko had actually killed someone before. Sojiro would have been dead before he ever got to see her face. For better or for worse, Aoko remained inexperienced in spite of her ruthlessness and decisiveness. Sojiro relaxed his shoulders. His stern face gradually returned to its normal, carefree state. Then,
でも、そ
but
んな
even
ことは
so,
関係ないわ。
none of that really matters.
あの子はそのあたりが
That's
異常
just
だ
the
か
way
ら
she is.
行
She
為は
acts with
理性
reason and uses her knowledge to make up for any
た
inexperience
や
she
すく補っ
might
て
have.
しまう。そうね。
Shizuki,
青子はその気
I
に
think
な
if she
れば
really felt like it,
迷
she
う
could
こと
take
な
another
く人
person's
の
life,
命に
as
手
you
を
put
出
it.
す。
And with that, Alice went back to twirling noodles around her fork. She looks like she's having fun, Sojiro thought, as he ruminated over what she'd just said. She was rational enough to accept herself, despite acting against society's morals, and possessed of an intellect that exceeded even the confidence gained through experience, rather. Had Aoko been raised to utilize her logic and reason to forge reality from fiction? If that was the case, then perhaps they really were different from Sojiro.
すまない。
I'm
こんな
sorry.
ことを聞いたのは、
Can you please not tell Aozaki that I asked you this? Sojiro seemed serious, as if he really regretted asking. Alice's expression remained unchanged, but she had never intended on saying anything to Aoko anyway.
ありがとう。
Thank you.
なんだか、
I'm not sure why, but I seem to have a lot of secret conversations with you. Sojiro went back to eating his food. Though Alice had still only had a single bite, he was already scraping his clean. I already asked Aozaki this, but do the two of you always get along like that? Sojiro had suddenly decided to change the topic of conversation. His new topic was the rather cold and dry relationship between Aoko and Alice. Aoko said their relationship was normal, but maybe Alice had a different opinion. If you're talking about how we rarely talk to each other, that's just what happens. It's convenient. It isn't something that bothers us. Alice was still twirling noodles with her fork as she gave her concise answer. Around and around the noodles went, but none of them made it into her mouth. What do you mean it's convenient? Do you mean that you're friends? Would it make things difficult for you if we didn't get along? Sojiro swallowed his words at Alice's perplexed reply. It would, actually, but he wasn't sure how to respond when asked so directly. No, maybe I was just thinking about it the wrong way. I promise I won't bring it up again, so just forget I asked. More importantly, Alice. Sojiro gave Alice a piercing stare that was more intense than any time they'd talked before. Alice was taken slightly aback at the unusually intense look in his eyes. Her face became slightly flushed out of nervousness. Nobody besides Aoko had ever stared at her like this before. Whether or not he noticed, Sojiro waited a few moments before speaking slowly and with complete conviction. If you're not going to eat that, do you mind if I have it? I don't know what anybody expected. An awkward silence followed. Sorry, this is mine. Shizuki had cooked it, sure, but Alice wasn't wrong. He had made it for her, after all. There was a slight tinge of anger in her voice, but even she wasn't sure why it was there. You're right. Sorry, I shouldn't have asked. Sojiro plopped himself down on the sofa. This must have looked particularly pathetic to Alice, since she responded with, are there any ingredients left to cook some more? She quickly covered her mouth. Apparently, she had surprised even herself. It was quite unusual for her to ask something like that. Nope. I used everything and made some for Aozaki as well. Sojiro stared a bit regretfully at Alice's plate as he responded. Alice could have just let it go, but for some reason she felt the need to speak up again. But Aoko is still sleeping. Yeah, but I'm gonna wake her up soon. And she'd have told me to make her something anyway. Speaking of which, it's almost 1 o'clock. I'll go and wake her up now. Didn't she say she'd kill you if you woke her up? Alice wasn't sure why Sojiro was willing to take such a risk. Sojiro agreed, but started walking anyway. Maybe so, but I feel like if I don't wake her up now, she's going to end up killing me later anyway. His words were surprisingly affectionate. Leaving Alice with only that, Sojiro headed to Aoko's room. Alice watched him leave in silence before taking another bite of the stir-fried noodles. Glancing at the doors to the hallway to make sure nobody was coming, she took another bite. She repeated that process many times before finishing her food. It was then that she heard Aoko's wrath coming from the second floor. Alice stood up and began solemnly clearing the table, feeling a bit sorry for what Sojiro was dealing with. She knew she didn't really have to, but she felt like it was the least she could do for him. She'd never really expected to feel this way. But he'd cooked for her, and it was surprisingly good. Almost enough to make her forget how bad he was at making tea. Ooh. And that's the end of the chapter. And look at the title of the next chapter. Almost makes me want to start it right now. But something like Scarred Scar Red is probably a little too long. So we'll have to save that for next time. Welcome back. I still can't believe that Gilgamesh came in here and just fucking just that whole. I mean, come on, man. How am I expected to function after that, let alone react? It's been quite a day here for me. That said, I hope you all enjoyed today's installment of Witch on the Holy Night with Mythos Mondays. As always, I'm your host, Colin Redleaf. And, yeah, like I keep saying, it's only going to get more fun from here. Not gonna lie, the whole time we were reading, I kind of set myself on autopilot while wondering really about emotes and sound alerts and new like donation stuff like bit reacts and sub stuff. Now Rage Shy Lily, I dare you. Is she still on? I was watching her before I went live. Let's see if there's anything more. Well, I was gonna say if there was anything more appropriate, but I don't know, who cares. Oh, sound alerts are back on, and I just turned on all of the channel point redemptions as well, so y'all can joke around with that. Oh, actually, since we're here and we've got a little bit of time, does anybody have any suggestions? I love that sound. It does. That's an anxiety-inducing sound for me. Oh, that's something else I can do. Anyway, as I was saying, does anybody have any suggestions or requests for sound alerts? Because I had a few in mind, and I put in a few that were already that I had like either found or had already wanted for sure. But if there's anything anybody wants to see, I definitely would check it out. If it's something I know about already, I'll probably be like, hell yeah, let's go. But if it's something I don't know, then yeah, I'll look into it. I don't know if anybody has any sound effects off the top of their head that they'd want to like suggest, but you know, I thought I'd put the question out there since we have a very limited number as it is. So, give me one moment. The only sound effect I can think of is the Buddy Holly guitar riff. That probably could. That could probably go in. I would definitely make. I would definitely make that a bit redemption though, because if I made that channel points, people would spam the fuck out of that. And by people, I mean Galahad. Speaking of Galahad, actually, he was considering doing a couple of streams offhand, probably over the coming weeks. Because of his job, he's not going to be able to be consistent with it. But just because he's had a little bit of free time to pick up KH2FM critical mode, I had him playing on stream the other day. He's been thinking about kind of doing it himself. So there's that. I'll keep you guys posted on that in case he in case he decides to try and commit to that. He was kind of playing with the idea, but I'll talk to him about it. Well, seeing as I got it pulled up, let's see if we can find. I can't pull up the library. Oh, I probably have to do. I probably have to add them. No, I can't. I can add them on stream, can I? I've seen it done before. I don't know why I can't access the. Can't access the library here. Let me try and refresh. Oh, there we go. I don't know what that was about. Let me just look up Buddy Holly on the existing library. 4 seconds. Yeah, there you go. Let's put that in there. We set that to 500 bits. Fuck you. Alright, it should like auto update. I don't know if that's true. Let me pull up my channel, make sure I'm muted. Yep, there it is. They're out of order. Hold on, I like to have them sorted by cost. Yeah, there you go, that's better. Alright. Anybody else has any suggestions, speak up now. Or I'm just gonna ignore you, I guess. Alright. While I'm waiting, let's see, in fact, if there is anybody else we want to raid. I mean, I could very well raid Shy Lily, but I feel like I'd be a little embarrassed. Volpixie's playing, oh, Volpixie's finishing the fucking, Pokemon DLC that I never finished. Let's see. Lythera's playing Lethal Company. Yeah, let's go ahead and send some love to Volpixie. Yeah. Volpixie is a Kitsune VTuber, if I'm not mistaken. Kitsune are probably one of the most well-known Japanese mythological creatures. Not that anybody here doesn't know that, but just look, okay, mythology's my shtick. But yeah, Volpixie's pretty cool. I've seen her stream a couple of times. Specifically Lethal Company with some big names, like Ross. like rubber Ross. So better watch that raid before I start second guessing myself, because that's a little embarrassing too, actually. But hey, we're affiliate, and we got a shitload of gift subs today. Thank you again, Gilgamesh. I really can't say thank you enough. It's absolutely insane, the generosity. But yeah, we're big leaguers now, and I should be confident about that. All right. Be nice. Fucking raid Leaf, and thanks for sticking around. I'll see you guys tomorrow with some Persona 3 Reload.